Hey family, how are you? Say, I wanted to bring you something here today. It's Wednesday. I'm supposed to be studying for my MBA programs, but I had an intense thought that I wanted to share with you because I think this directly pertains to us and what we're going through. I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to change all of the details of the story. I'm going to change all of the names in the story to prove the point in the story. So I will tell you as I recall the best I can. This is obviously a number of years ago. I was in my undergrad, and I was walking between two of our buildings, and there was a young man that came in that had transferred from a different college, from a different university, and had come in and proud and boastful and kind of walked with a big strut and puffed out his chest in this corner sort of a thing. And it was myself and two other friends. And one friend was a classmate of mine. We'll call him Bob. And another classmate, he was an upperclassman. He was several years in front of me in university. We'll call him Ryan. And Ryan and Bob and I were walking, and we noticed this young man kind of come strutting out his stuff. And for something happened, and we interacted with each other, and we engaged. And Ryan, being the upperclassman, made an offhanded comment, kind of changed the conversation a bit, said, I think we should bring back hazing to the university campus. And he said, gosh, I think it'd be kind of fun to do this, and kind of brought it out. And I remember looking at him wondering why he was bringing this up. Well, it was his way of interacting with this young man and kind of trying to take him down a couple of notches, saying, hey, you're a really cool guy. There's no need for you to be puffed out and trying to be bigger than you are and trying to be the big man on campus, and just be yourself. And I've interacted with him since, and he's actually a really cool guy. And for the sake of conversation purposes, let's call this young man Luke, right? And so Luke's a really cool guy. We're not friends, but I always remember him being a pretty cool guy when he wasn't being an egotistical jerk. Does that make sense? And I will admit that this interaction 100% made me not ever want to be friends with him because it just put a sour taste in my mouth. And what ended up happening is, Ryan had made the comment of, hey, we should bring back hazing. You have to paint the picture here. Ryan was making a joke of it. He was making light of this entire situation. He had a smile on his face, and he was chuckling, and, he slapped the guy on the shoulder and say, wouldn't it be kind of fun? And he was trying to prove a point here, and this young man took great personal offense by it and swore at us, actually, and said some things that were not appropriate at all, especially for a Christian university. And I remember just kind of chuckling and laughing like, you are never going to have my trust. Ever. And we parted, and this young man went off on his way, and I remember turning to Ryan and saying, what's the story? And he made a comment that was very insightful, which does not matter, but it had the feeling of, some people need to hear the truth, no matter how they take it, and maybe one day they'll get it. And that's not what he said, but this is what I remember the flavor being. And fast forward, I felt a great amount of conviction days later, and I actually approached this young man in chapel, and I apologized to him, and I said, look, on behalf of all three of us, we meant it all in jest, and it was not a threat. It was harmless fun. We intentionally were just trying to have fun and make light of a conversation. And he very appreciated, he appreciated that and said thank you very much. I don't remember if he forgave me or not, but I felt the conviction to go do so. So I listened to the Holy Spirit and I asked for forgiveness. I apologized, and the point that I'm bringing here is that young man has never apologized. And I'm bringing this here today because I think we have this issue very blatantly here, where two parties are interacting, and Ben says something, and so and so says something, and there's an amount of truth in what's said here, and there's also an amount of truth in what's said here, and somebody takes offense. And so the one party goes to the other party and says, hey, I apologize for my part. I meant no offense. This is really what I was trying to convey. This is what I was trying to communicate. And the other party says, thanks for apologizing. And they don't apologize themselves. And I think for unity to happen, there has to be an appropriate amount of both parties saying, hey, look, for whatever I did and for whatever I'm responsible for, I apologize. And what I see too often is the one party saying, hey, I apologize, and the other party saying, thanks, I appreciate that. You were wrong. But then there's no unity. And I bring this up partially because I've had a number of interactions within the last handful of months via social media and personal communications, and I've just cut people off because they're negative. And it hurts me, it pains me to do this when it's within the body of Christ, when it's within our family of believers. And it hurts me to see people like that. And I'm not perfect. And I will admit 100% that I am not perfect yet. I believe that I am saved by the grace of God. And it is not by my own works, most certainly. And whenever I cause offense or whenever I'm in the wrong, I try as best I possibly can to go to that person as personally as I possibly can go to that person and say, hey, I apologize. And it bothers me. And I think that we need to take some lessons here. When the other person doesn't apologize, there's a number of things that we can learn about that person and about their walk of faith, but I think it also speaks to what we need to be doing more of. I think we do need to be bringing more unity. We need to absolutely speak truth, and we don't need to water down any truth that we have. We need to handle it appropriately, true. But I don't think we hold back at all. I see this especially when I'm dealing with, here in the States, we're a capitalistic society. We are founded on many Judeo-Christian beliefs. And, the countries that we're working with are not that. Many of the countries we're working with within our family, within our JJK community globally, are not based in Judeo-Christian values. They're not capitalistic societies. Many of these organizations, many of these societies, countries is what I mean to say, are socialist republics or some form of communist beliefs or whatever, right? They're not based, they're not mirror images of the United States is what I mean. And when we're interacting with people, especially when you're in a foreign territory, foreign organization, I have to have my hat in my hand. I have to come in with humility and say, I'm not certain how you do this here. So let me ask a lot of questions. I try not to have any presumptions because we have a saying in the United States that when you assume, bad things happen. And you have egg on your face, if you will, right? And so I try to make it a point to ask a lot of questions and say, hey, this is how our model fits. This is how I see our model fitting here. Is that appropriate for the context of your culture and society and how your economic development structure happens and this sort of thing? Lots of questions are involved. And I don't think we do enough of that here. I know we don't do enough of that here within the States. We jump to conclusions and we start throwing accusations and lobbying, accusations and just rude comment and just false, horrible situation, right? We do that too often here in the States. And I'm actually very encouraged by a lot of our inter-country organizations and inter-country communications that we have. A lot of people come in with a great amount of humility, and I love seeing that. And I want to encourage conversation with our family here, and I want us to realize that we've got a lot going on. We've got a lot of people with a lot of different cultural backgrounds, with a lot of different countries interacting. Our university is global. So, if you're down in Bogota or Paraguay, or, if you're down in Bogota, South America, and somebody comes to you from Russia, for instance, you have to understand they're coming from a different cultural context. I know many cultures, it's rude to show the bottom of your feet. So when I travel abroad, when I travel out of country, I make it a point to not cross my legs. Because when you cross your legs, you typically show the bottom of your foot. And I don't remember which cultures it's rude to show the bottom of your foot. So I make it a point to not show the bottom of my foot, to not cross my legs, to show that. So we have to be very sensitive to other people's cultural context. At the same point in time, we never lower our rule of standard. What I mean by that is to draw it back to this story. Hey, if you say something or do something that offends to somebody, go back and say, hey, look, I did not mean to offend. This is my intention. This is my heart, right? And my dog's home. So we need to be aware of these things, and we need to be very cognizant of what's going on in different cultures and different communities. But again, do not lower our sense of standard. And I think it would raise, for me, it would raise a lot of flags if someone came to me and apologized and I walked away from that conversation not having apologized. That would raise a lot of flags within me personally. And I would want to do a very strong self-evaluation. So JJK family, I love you all. Peace and blessings to all of you. I know we've got some good things. Who knows where Waka is today? I don't know what state he's in. I'm pretty sure he's in the States today, but with him, you never know. I mean, he might be on a plane somewhere. So anyway, he and I talked yesterday. We're going to be talking again this afternoon. Good things are going, man. Good things are going, my family. So continue working diligently. Be in prayer for our leadership. Be in prayer for our different for our university projects and our different business projects. And we will continue to be in prayer for all of you, all of our family abroad. And much love and peace to all of you. Be well. Blessings.